Of all the stories of monsters that go bump in the night, vampire tales are perhaps the most enduring, and not just because they live forever. For starters, books about vampires are simply good entertainment, but the vampire trope, a bloodthirsty but beautiful nightcrawler in all its mythical glory, leads itself well to literature and art, and where writers and thinkers have used its mysterious origins and archetypal narratives to explore the human condition. The best vampire books are simultaneously romantic, historical, philosophical, and mystifying, all prime ingredients for an unforgettable page-turner. Whether you love vampire literature and you're always on the lookout for a new story to devour, or you're new to the genre and just want to get a taste of it, the top 10 best vampire books ahead are absolute must-reads. Welcome to Horror Stories Fanatics. If you enjoy this type of content, then subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss out on any of our latest and greatest uploads. Salems Lot by Stephen King, 1975. I thought about doing this list by counting down from 10 to 1, but honestly, you know it's going to be on the top of the list, so there'd be no surprise there. Kurt Barlow is terrifying, and that scene with Ralphie Glick at the window, Shudder, King's rumination on the nature of evil, painted against a backdrop of small-town New England, and utilizing a broad tapestry of characters, is both the greatest and most terrifying vampire novel ever written. Yes, I'm including Dracula. It's not up for debate. It's my list. Dracula by Bram Stoker, 1897. Stoker's novel was not the first classic vampire tale. Polidori's The Vampire predated it by nearly 80 years. But Polidori is a footnote in the story of Stoker's success, and Dracula is one of the most indelible figures in literary history. If you've not read the original novel, I can only implore you to do so. Even now, it inspires fear. I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, 1954. Adapted for film under 3 separate titles since its initial publication. I Am Legend is also the creative spark that laid the foundation for a great many apocalyptic fictions and films, including 28 Days Later, which is ostensibly about zombies, until you read I Am Legend. Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice, 1976. They say you can't have your cake and eat it too, but the first of Rice's vampire chronicles not only launched the angst-ridden romantic vampire, it also presented vampires who are breathtakingly terrifying. And Claudia, she's just damned unsettling. The Light at the End by John Skipp and Craig Spector, 1986. The breakthrough first novel by Skipp and Spector sparked the splatterpunk subgenre and also brought vampires into contemporary New York City in a way that was funny, relatable, and terrifying all at the same time. Necroscope by Brian Lumley, 1986. Yes, the Necroscope novels are at first, at least ostensibly, about Harry Coe, who has the ability to speak to the dead, but they are so much richer and more complex than that simple description implies. Parallel alien vampire worlds, psychic espionage groups, time-space, teleportation, and brilliantly conceived, terrifying vampires. Throat Sprockets by Tim Lucas, 1994. This nightmarish tale of erotic fetishist obsession and a mysterious underground cult film called Throat Sprockets is impossible to effectively describe. Experience it for yourself. Let the Right One In by John Ajvide Lindqvist, 2004. This global blockbuster bestseller by Swedish author Lindqvist is perhaps the most beautifully human vampire novel ever written. The terror rises from the darkness and the unknown and the nearness of the predator, but the story's anguish emerges from the sadness and loneliness that connect the two main characters, one of whom is a child and the other of whom only looks like one. Shudder. They Thirst by Robert R. McCammon, 1981. While it's certainly not the only vampire conquest novel I've ever read, not even the only one on this list, McCammon's is absolutely one of the best and most unique, thanks to its Los Angeles setting and perspective. The connection between Hollywood and blood-sucking leeches has been made elsewhere, but rarely as grimly, effectively, or entertainingly as in They Thirst. Mastery by Kelly Wilde, 1991. I've argued about this novel with several other readers, but I stand by it as one of the weirdest, most entertaining vampire stories ever. Halley's Comet, vampire hierarchy struggles, old trains, time travel, yes, time travel, and hyena vampires, yes, hyena vampires. I love it, but even if you don't, I can promise it will at least be unlike any other vampire story you've ever read. The Vampire, A Tale by John William Polidori, written in 1819, almost 100 years before Bram Stoker's Dracula. The Vampire is the OG vampire novel. It's about a mysterious and glamorous newcomer who immerses himself in an elite English scene and the people who begin to discover the truth about his nature. Written by John William Polidori, the book is inspired by an incomplete story by Lord Byron, the real-life inspiration behind the Byronic vampire archetype. Basically, read this if you want to start with a classic Gothic tale that's also a romantic story. Dead Until Dark by Charlaine Harris. Whether you've watched every steamy version of True Blood twice, me, or didn't even know it existed, reading the novel that inspired the HBO series will enthrall you from the first page to the last. It follows small-town Louisiana cocktail waitress Sookie Stackhouse, who reads minds and dates a vampire. The plot is thrilling, but it's the well-captured setting and cast of characters that really sets the story apart. Fledgling, a novel by Octavia E. Butler. Octavia E. Butler's Fledgling is not your everyday vampire tale. Yes, it's impossible to put down. You could easily read it in one sitting, but it also wrestles with issues of race, sexuality, and identity. The protagonists, language, themes, and plot are all nothing short of riveting. The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. While snooping around her father's library, the protagonist discovers things she never wanted to about her own family's history and the life of Vlad the Impaler, the ruthless medieval ruler who in part inspired Dracula. She also inherits the torch passed down from generations of historians trying to answer horror's ultimate question: is Dracula a mythic figure, or did he really exist? Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter by Seth Graham Smith. What if Abraham Lincoln not only saved the Union, but also hunted vampires? Talk about a presidential hero. Historical and biographical fiction meet fantasy. In Seth Graham Smith's clever reimagining of Abraham Lincoln's life, there's just one major supernatural twist: when a vampire kills the 9-year-old future statesman's mother. If you love studying the Civil War, but also have an interest in the paranormal, pick this one up. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Published in 2020, this recent release follows the members of a Charleston-based women's book club as they try to reveal the true nature of a mysterious man who's infiltrated their town. Amazon describes the 90s-based horror novel as a cross between Steel Magnolias and Dracula, and an ideal read for both murderinos and fans of Stephen King. Those Who Hunt the Night by Barbara Hambly. What makes Isidro so terrifying isn't his centuries-long reputation of murdering innocent people. It's that you can't help but like him. Charming and intelligent, he can prove to be a loyal friend. It's his sense of honor that makes him sympathetic to humans who believe his high code of conduct will save their lives when the violent Isidro comes forward. It's a stark reminder that he is an unapologetic predator with inconsequential loyalties. Fever Dream by George R.R. Martin. Committed to the ancient vampire ways of exerting brutality on innocents, Damon will go to any length to preserve this power and satiate his bloodlust. This ancient evil seeks to overtake mankind and crown himself as their blood master. With his power of influence, he has accumulated a legion of followers who are willing to fight against fellow vampires and the forces of good. When he finally conquers his ancient nemesis, the good vampire Joshua York, all hope for humanity is seemingly eviscerated. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. If you enjoyed it and you found it helpful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content just like this. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one.